A lot of you guys asked me about my modeling career. Needless to say, I was very insecure at 16. I'm like 5'7". Almost. I feel like it was also a great opportunity for me to escape. All I wanted to do is call my mom. Can you come get me, please? I don't want to be here. There's so much more to modeling than like being super beautiful. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to make this video about my time living in Paris as a model because a lot of you guys asked me about my modeling career, and I do share bits and pieces here and there, but I decided to do this story time about my time living in Paris. So to give you a little backstory, I started in the modeling industry when I was about 15, but I really started working when I was 16. I actually got my first like big campaign that was shot in London, UK. I was this huge like Israeli company, and that was my first big job. After that, it kind of started moving for me. I was going to a lot of castings back in Israel, but I would never went anywhere international. My first kind of breakthrough to the international market was when Elite Models, who was my modeling agency in Israel, they held a casting with IMG Paris. IMG is a huge modeling agency around the world, and their Paris office came to Tel Aviv to scout some girls, and I was scouted. I can't even explain to you this feeling because I am a very short for a model. I'm like 5'7", almost. And for me, the fact that anybody noticed me from an international market was just like mind-blowing to me. Needless to say, I was very insecure at 16, as most girls are, I feel. It was a huge victory for me. I didn't come from a household that could afford to send me and like my mother there. We didn't have kind of the financials to support that decision. My mom had to stay and work. When Paris called and they're like, we'll get you a visa, come and stay for a month, I was really excited. I feel like it was also a great opportunity for me to escape because it was at a time when my parents were going through a divorce. It wasn't a time where I actually wanted to be home. So if a lot of people like ask me sometimes, weren't you scared to leave home at 16 and move to like a different country? You don't speak the language, nothing. I think that I was so determined to just kind of escape the chaos of divorce in the house that fear wasn't even a factor. So I arrived to Paris. It was very liberating and very scary. My mother was calling me 4 times a day. You know, she was obviously very worried, and I think that she really did a great job in hiding fear, and through our talk on the phone, just to remind me of like the values that she kind of instilled in me and who I am. So I guess that was kind of her way of making sure that I don't steer to the wrong direction. If you're a model and an agency scouts you in a different country, you go there, they provide you with an apartment. Usually it's a model apartment. You share it with a lot of other girls from other countries, and then they give you a map to the subway, they'll give you a cell phone, and they give you some allowance, but that allowance you pay back when you start making money through jobs. Not only do we not have a subway system in Israel, I don't know how to read a freaking map of a subway. I just remembered I like walked in being like, I'm an independent woman, 16. And then they gave me a map, be like, okay, go. And I'm just like looking at them, and my eyes are starting to like swell with tears. I was literally just like this small little frightened kitten. All of a sudden it hit me. I'm like, oh my God, this is it. Like, I think I made it to 1 casting out of like 5. I got lost, and I just remember I was like running through these streets with the stones, and I was wearing heels, and it was just like carrying this book. Back in the day, it was these heavy like portfolios. Back then you literally had to log this like huge thing. The day was like so overwhelming. I'll just never forget it. All I wanted to do is call my mom and be like, can you come get me, please? I don't want to be here. I decided not to call her because I knew that if I'm gonna call her and cry, she will make sure that I'll be back home. I called my best friend. I remember I was like a lot on the phone and like on Skype and stuff, and that really helped me. I think that living anywhere in the world, I mean, throughout my years of traveling, I always felt very lonely, and there were advantages and disadvantages to it. I mean, obviously feeling lonely when you are going through something, when you have a bad day, you have no one to talk to, so you you really like get down and it's hard to get out of that mood. But also being alone taught me so much about myself and exposed a lot of sides that I wasn't aware I have. It also made me kind of suck it up, buttercup moments. I went through those a lot because I was kind of looking around and there's no one there to help me. So I'm like, okay, you're gonna save yourself today again. I have to say, I had a very like pink romantic idea of Paris. I was thinking about romance and Eiffel Tower and people playing music in the streets and, you know, offering me baguettes while I walk. That wasn't the case. I always tell everybody like I was meant to be French. Like something happened and I was just like was born in the wrong place, but I was meant to be French. That trip, it was mainly to get a lot of test shoots. The agency is trying to kind of build your portfolio. You go to a lot of castings. Every day were between 3 to 6 or 7 castings, and the more castings you have, the better, because otherwise I just remember we would like be sitting in the apartment doing nothing. The weekends were like super boring. We would go somewhere with the girls, like walk around Paris. I would just kind of go and get lost. I loved walking around and feeling the culture. I wasn't the person that would like go to the museums or like the more touristy places. That's why I literally been to Paris maybe 6 times before I've even came close to the Eiffel Tower or close to Notre Dame. I kind of like to experience it differently than most people. I didn't build any relationship with the girls that were there on my first trip because a lot of the girls were always like, come and leave. It's usually not the same girls for the whole month. It was very like hard to really build any friendships, so it was very lonely. But again, it was better than being back home. I got the opportunity to escape. It also kind of exposed me to reality, and I was so like, you can do it and you do it and you book something amazing. And I think that that trip really taught me that it's such a process. There's so many things I need to work on, and there's so many things that I have to figure out about myself and fix it. And because that trip I didn't have any friends and I didn't really have anyone to talk to, I was observing a lot. And I think through that observation of, you know, just people walking down the street, to the bookers at the agency, to the girls that were staying in the apartment with me, I really learned a lot about how I want to present myself and how I want to carry myself, the things that I'm interested in, music and books. And I just really let my curiosity bloom there, and I followed it a lot, which was really exciting. And although it was kind of a sad time in my life, I look back at that trip and I just remember it to be so lonely, but in a very beautiful way, if that makes sense. For new faces, for girls that just started, you know, it was first like the initial trip was more about getting acquainted with like the clients and go to as many castings as possible and build your portfolio, and that was kind of really it. I didn't really get any confidence my first trip in Paris. I think that I also didn't book anything because you can tell by the way I was carrying myself, you know, just like my eyes, that I was so insecure. And I think that there's so much more to modeling than like being super beautiful, because you are in competition with so many different girls. Personality and the way you carry yourself and how you present yourself is so important. At the end of the day, it's human interaction. It's like the castings, the bookers, the clients will remember you over someone else because you made them think or smile or laugh, or you made a joke. Like there's a whole thing behind it, right? So it's just like human interaction. Like I was not at all at a place where I knew who I was, and I was just trying to kind of survive and kind of hiding in my room, hoping that the booker's not gonna call me and be like, you know what, we made a mistake, you should go back home. That was my first trip to Paris. I came back, I felt defeated, but I was ready to get back to it and like do it again. I went back to Paris 4 more times after that. I already started booking jobs actually, and I felt like I was kind of growing into myself, and that's when I also discovered the personality aspect. And I feel like the jobs that I did book was because I just like kind of left an impression, a memorable impression, and I was already in an apartment that was kind of independent from the bookers. There was no booker living there, so it was just like girls, and I actually had a chance to build relationships. Another thing that is very memorable for me that happened in Paris was I think my first sexual harassment. With the sexual harassment, I just remembered I stopped in Paris for a couple of days because I was actually going to Tokyo for work for like 3 months. I was going to see another agency because I switched an agency, and I was wearing like a dress. It was summer with heels and holding my book, and I was going to see that agency, and I was like, I felt so happy because I was going to Tokyo. Tokyo was always like a place I was so excited to visit, and I was really excited to meet that agency because they were like super interested in me. So I remember I took the metro and I went up the stairs, and when I was walking, this one guy behind me just like touched my butt, like under my skirt. I just remember that I turned around and he was just like, huh, and he just like kept walking, and I was just standing there and I was shocked, and I was looking around and no one like did anything or noticed or asked or like nothing. I just remembered I felt so violated. My mood completely like crashed. I felt really gross. I just wanted to go back to the apartment and like just be by myself and like change this dress and heels, but I had to go and see because I had a meeting with this agency, and when I walked in, I obviously like felt disgusting, and you could sense like my energy was completely off. That meeting did not go well. That's really all I could remember. I never told my mom that. I never told anybody that because it just felt like, what is it gonna do? Like, I don't know who the guy is. I just remembered how violated I felt, and I'm sure that a lot of girls experience it in the modeling industry, from photographers, from people that they worked with. I think today it's much better because today a lot of models have more voices. You know, there's social media that just like really put a lot of transparency on people. A lot of people have the platform now to talk about issues. This story time really took a sad turn, but I still have very fond memories of Paris. It still reminds me of how much beauty and goodness and amazing music and food and appreciation for different little things that I wasn't exposed to before. It exposed me to a lot of it. My goal is still to learn French one day. It's literally like on top of my list. French and Spanish. I have to conquer that. I wanted to share what I experienced in Paris. If you guys have any questions, you let me know. I wonder if I should keep doing these story times about my modeling experiences, just living in different places in Spain and in Tokyo and like other places that I've been to, and working with some big brands. So let me know if you are interested in hearing any of this. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you next time.